Welcome to Sifu Sean Connolly, who's joined us today. And just tell you a little bit about Sean. It's a little short bio. Started boxing from the age of 12 to the age of 24. So grounding in boxing. Then you did some Thai training. No fights, though. Is that right?
No, it was the first club in Belfast, and there was no competitions.
Right.
Everybody just what's this?
Started at the age of 19. That was the Thai. You started at 19. Worked weekends on doors in Belfast in the 90s. So probably plenty of stories from there. Began Chalgar in 92, 93. And he also did the Calorie with Sifu Paul in 2004, since 2004. Russian Sistema you've been doing for the past 6 years.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Interesting, yeah. And you, in your own background, you run group workshops as well as individual work on enhancing performance through applied psychology. You've practiced Thai massage for the last 30 years as well, and Tweenar for 20. You've done sports massage, acupressure, auricular acupuncture, etc. And you're a qualified clinical hypnotherapist.
Yeah.
Mate, what haven't you done?
Yeah.
Too much
background there. Sifu Sean's an experienced martial artist and healer. From boxing to Qigong, Mantis, Kung Fu, Calorie and Sistema to Tweenar and hypnotherapy. It's a broad experience there, and it actually covers the two sides of fighting and healing as well. So welcome.
We've got quite a lot to cover.
Welcome, Sean. Been looking forward to this. We did talk briefly, I spoke briefly to you about a massage acupressure type session. So maybe we can touch on that, but maybe do something about that in the future as well.
Yeah.
It's just we wanted to have a chat. So, talk to you and about your journey and your experience.
Welcome.
Yeah.
So I want to start off with the question, because I remember you telling me a story about how you first got into boxing, and obviously that was the first martial art that you got into. So can you tell us a little bit about how that started? Because I know there's a funny story behind that.
Well, with the boxing, when I went into secondary school, the school was very rough, and there was just fights every day. But when you weren't getting into fights with people your own age, older boys were bullying. So I got a couple of really bad beatings. I got my cheekbone fractured, got my nose fractured, and it was just a constant thing where you had to learn some sort of self-defense. I tried the judo, and I got frustrated because there was no kicking or punching, and as a 12-year-old you were just getting kicked and punched. So I thought, so my dad told me to go to the local boxing club, and in them days everybody boxed in Belfast. There was only judo, boxing, or football, whether English soccer or Gaelic football. So about 20 of us landed down into the boxing club, and there was no room. So the coach in those days, my coach Patsy, who's actually still alive and still coaches, he's in his 80s.
Wow.
He put us into the boxing ring with a senior boy, a lot older, and he told him to give us a good pasting, a good beating. So I remember going home and sitting in my bedroom and crying with a black eye and 2 black ears and a bleeding nose. But I promised myself I wasn't going to leave the boxing club until I got him back, because I was just fed up with people bullying me. So that was my entry, and like a lot of guys, into martial arts and boxing. The box really for confidence, or for people just to leave them alone. And I really boxed in those days for people just to, once they heard you went to the boxing club, and you got to know all the older tough guys, because they all went to the boxing club again. So you satisfied that safety circle
Yeah.
that we all need.
Did you get him back?
I did. It was about a year and a half, I think. But the boxing, it's a tough baptism into any martial art. You know, and there's so many Thai boxing, BJJ, when you're trying to stop somebody choking you out, there's that something deep inside. There's nobody there helping you, and it's that survival instinct. Something inside opens.
Mm.
And, is it maybe the old reptilian brain kicking in? A lot of people never experience that, and I think it's very important for anybody taking up a martial art. They should, if I'm going to coach anybody and I know they have no background in hard sparring, I'll actually take them through some boxing drills or some Thai drills to let them experience what it's like to be hit before they actually do forms and stuff.
Yeah. That's an interesting point, because it's there's nothing like being hit to sharpen your reflexes and your senses.
And dealing with hearts. I remember getting up after boxing matches and going to the toilet before school and just passing pure blood. So many kidney punches, getting constant sore heads, and it actually made you get up and train before you went to school. I used to skip on my lunch. I would jog home, skip, and have my lunch and walk back to school. My day consisted of one-arm press-ups. I remember thinking, I'm not doing two-arm press-ups because everybody else does them. And I wanted, as a kid, you want to be the strongest guy in the world, But looking back now, I can see the behavior as the 12, 13, 14-year-old. And it's not wasted,
No, I think boxing's a solid foundation for anyone, anybody.
Was that just quickly? You did boxing for that many years and nothing else, just strict boxing, competing,
just boxing.
And
of course, I was a big fan of Martial Arts Illustrated and the Terry O'Neill's karate magazine. So when I wasn't boxing, I used to pretend I done karate in the garden. Like everybody trying to break blocks and I was a big fan of Yamaguchi the cat and Higawana Sensei of Goju-Ryu. So I used to read their stuff a lot and we'll try and copy the moves. But it was just boxing.
You did that for that many years, and then around 19, you then started to train Muay Thai, right?
Yes, a couple of friends were telling me about Thai boxing, and a guy who became a friend of mine, he was going to Thailand and he fought in Thailand. So before that, I seen one other guy from the north of the city, and he entered a karate competition, the Irish karate comp, and he done Thai boxing, and he just kicked the legs of all the karate guys, kept getting disqualified, but he just wanted to go and try it out. So we all descended on the Thai boxing, and that's where I met Sifu Peter Matthews. Peter actually went on to fight in the World Championships at heavyweight.
Oh, wow.
And he cleaned up. When he went over, I think it was 96 maybe.
Yeah.
And he stopped the favorite in the first round. I put the second guy on crutches, and for the finals, the fight to get into the finals, they arrived late. His trainer got the times mixed up, and when they went to the stadium, the Thai army had been betting on Peter. It's like a gambling. Cookies at the fights. So, but nobody would fight him. The guys who seen who it was, because the Thai army had brought them over and said, this guy's just arrived. He should have been fighting one of yous, and they refused. So he got the bronze.
Oh.
But there's a lot of good guys come out of that club, and one of my friends, he fought for Jamie. Jamie had 54 pro fights, fought for the King of Thailand, and he has a couple of British champions himself, Jimmy Crawford. So a lot of good guys come out there and good friends.
And you did. How long did you do that for? The Thai.
I was there, I think, a year, and then one of my friends, Paul Devaney, who was a Wing Chun instructor who practiced Eskrima, he brought a magazine into the bar we were working in, and he asked me had I heard of a man called Paul Whitrod. I said no, and he showed me some articles. In them days, Paul was young. He was fighting everybody. I think he was getting arrested a lot in car parks, and he said, it told me a story about him training with Grandmaster in Hong Kong. So when I got my wages that weekend, I bought a ticket to London. I had never been to London before, and I just jumped on a plane, got to Stratford, and walked about asking people did they know where the
there was no internet back then, right?
was. So I remember when I walked in, and Sifu Paul, I think he had a stone, and it was in like a wok, a big Chinese wok with sand, and he was just hitting it with his iron palm. So I took a private lesson, and he'd done some gaojoi. I felt sick. First time ever. So some gaojoi, and then he beat the forearms. He taught me the first 6 hand movements, first form, and then said cheerio. I went back home to Belfast, and I started traveling once a month to stay, and that was it really. I just I liked the challenge. I think it was a new challenge for me, more for the self. A lot of like the boxing and the Thai rolls, hitting things, and even with sparring, you can hit back. With the conditioning, you're really challenging yourself. You're inflicting that pain, and you're offering yourself up to take that pain. So you're mentally trying to stay in the game. So it is that part to me is self-development, self-challenging yourself.
Yeah, definitely a mental thing. When you're conditioning with someone who's tougher than you, it's a very mental thing, because you have to try to overcome that feeling of pain. And it's not, I mean, there is that ego thing about, I don't want to be, give in too soon. But it's actually trying to push yourself beyond that pain to be able to continue. Yeah.
So did you actually call up, or how did it work? Did you just, you didn't obviously just jump on a plane. Did you call up firsthand and say, hey, I read about you?
I remember. I might have phoned or dropped in. I think I might have phoned it. It was, I can't remember. It was that long ago.
Yeah.
But he obviously was expecting me. The classes were very tough in them days. We all change. I think Paul's temperament and the way he was trained. The classes were very competitive, and they were very hard. I always remember them being very challenging, and they were big classes. And I enjoyed them. I always enjoyed training with bigger people. I was probably the smallest doorman in Belfast. So I had in my head, if I train with bigger people, it's okay, because if I get into a conflict with somebody, they're going to be bigger than me 9 times out of 10. So why not just train with bigger people? So, but even with probably one of the seminars that always sticks in my head from years ago was the 8 silk brocades.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was 3, maybe 4 hours of just holding the positions, and just over and over and over again. It was mentally tough, and I wasn't used to that. I was used to jumping about, and to actually stand and not move in your post training again is quite mentally challenging.
Yeah. And physically and physically challenging.
Yeah. So you have to come up with your own strategies and how to get through it.
So as as someone who started off in boxing, obviously competed, done door work, Muay Thai, what was your thought on Mantis, as in the beginning stages of training it?
For me personally, the bonus for me was the jongs, the strengthening of the joints and making the body tougher. And I think I actually started a class even before I was a Sifu, because I had so many friends who they were curious on what is this that you're practicing. So I booked the leisure center, and we would meet for maybe 2 hours and just beat the arms off each other. not much technique, just lots of conditioning, lots of Qigong, lots of horse stance, and lots of pole punching.
All right, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but to me, it was that that bonus, especially with the Chai Sao, I would get guys coming in who were powerlifters, and some quite big guys, and they were actually very blown away on how they could not move. You know, when you were practicing Chai Sao, they were thinking, "Where's this power coming from?" Because they weren't dealing with their joints. And to me, that was a bonus. You always need a bonus. It's, to me, the Jaguar Prem Mantis for me back in those days was, I feel more confident because I have a hammer in my back pocket that you don't know about. It's my secret weapon,
Yeah.
so to speak. Because in any competition, same as the grappling, for you, Nish, I'm sure you've took some of the Kushti wrestling, and you have techniques that other BJJ guys don't practice. So we all in the martial arts, you have to have something that other people don't have.
Yeah, for sure. And there are certain techniques that still apply. I think it's just a matter of the concept and the principle. So an example would be like, as you bring it up, Hun Sao as a circle hand. I use that so many times to break grips. Someone grabs a sleeve, Hun Sao and hook. It's the same principle. They have something like that, but for me, I'm like, oh, that's a Hun Sao and a Nap Sao. You know, I've learned. Or actually, no, that's a Got Sao. You know, and it works. Boom, break, and then come in. So, as I think even Steve Hayes said it as well. You know, using other arts to inform yourself and the art that you do, and then you find that actually there are techniques that I can use from the ground or on the back or on the side, or you know, from a less not being standing upright, from the knee, you know, down on one knee, on both, you know. So the techniques are there, and this is why my question really was around what did you take from Mantis, given that you already came from quite an already fighting background and fighting style. How did you see Chow Gar techniques different, or did at any point did you think to yourself, oh, I'm not really sure I like the way they do that, or would that work? Or
well, I try everything out. Coming from that background, you show me a technique, or if I meet up with Peter, we just we'll play spar. We will try techniques. If it works, you know, great. If it doesn't, why is it not working? Is it too fancy? Am I at the wrong angle? I think you have to really try your tools out. You know, it doesn't matter if I can't use it, I'm just going to throw it away. I'm not going to practice it. You're not going to use all your tools anyway. But I'm thinking to myself about the story you told me there with the grappling. I had a couple of students who were judo competitors who one of the brothers competed in the Olympic Games. They were both internationals. But I had taught him Sambo UQ, and then we were doing all the jongs of shaking off the bridge. And his instructor was grappling with him, and he put his wrist out for his instructor to grab it. But he nearly broke his wrist, and he got shouted at and reprimanded. So I think if you have a good footstool, a good root in your own system, you can look at other systems and you'll know where you can put that in, or where it will flow. It's the same. I remember Peter would be a Sifu of Xingyi Chuan and Bagua Zhang for Sifu Paul. He can apply that in sparring and Thai boxing. He can use a lot of the Bagua throws because he just puts it in flow. Same as Tom. I'm not sure if you know Thomas Lamont. He's an Olympic wrestling coach and former MMA fighter. Fought in Brazil, bare knuckle, but his background's Wing Chun, so he puts is it Chisao?
Chisao, yeah.
He puts that in some of his grappling on the ground as drills. So I think if we have that, if you have your own, and I done that with my boxing. I would try out some of the Mantis, especially the open guard, because it's like the Thai long guard.
Exactly. Yeah, that's how I see it. Yeah.
So I would use that. I found rather than throwing hooks, if I hooked with the Gaojoy, a lot heavier.
Yeah, I found that as well. Yeah.
Because I went back and forth. I still had some boxing fights when I was practicing praying Mantis. It tended to make my arms heavier, but relaxed, so I did not lose any speed.
Did you find that you could use short power, the shorter punches, in the boxing, or
the heaviness was more important,
right?
Because if you tense up at all, you're going to lose. Nobody, boxers are quite fast, great reflexes, and any opponent, if you're in a get ready stance, they know that you're going to.
No, I just mean use your jab and your cross and your straight and your hook from a distance, but when sometimes you're getting closer, and not necessarily just exploding that short punches. Did you find that you could do that or enhance that, or?
Well, what I started to focus on more was the dip guat gong and the short punches.
Right. Yeah.
To think about my ribs. So it was piecing it all together. Okay, I had the biomechanics for a boxing punch. So can I add something more to that?
Right.
Like the dip guat gong.
Yeah.
And as I say, the heaviness.
Yeah.
You're always, and you guys, everybody's the same, I think, in all arts. You're always thinking, how can I improve this? It's not just trying to kick a football at the back of a net. You're trying to
take someone's head off.
Yeah. Or stop them taking your
head. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what it is. That's what I meant.
What's your thoughts on say with boxing? They don't give a bridge, all right? So you've got the jab, you've got the cross, you've got the hook. So they really kind of put their hands out and they move and they bob and weave and slip. So how do you see sort of, and I ask you this as given your boxing background, someone that doesn't bridge and they're like moving a lot more and just jabbing out. How do you see Mantis kind of overcome that sort of style?
You have to, if you're going to practice, if I'm throwing a jab, it's coming straight anyway at your nose. So if you put your arm out, you're going to make that bridge, and whether you're just moving this, they're going to make that bridge. So then you can cross it, crush it, or you can. I always like just the open guard and wait. Boxing stance will be from here, so you've this gap here to pass before you hit the face, whereas the open guard here, you've a lot more distance. So, and they have to come in here with straight punches and uppercuts. The hooks are already covered, so when it's coming straight in, you're practicing taking out the wrist, the elbow. But you have to practice that. You have to have a friend with a boxing glove on maybe start like cha-cha slow, and you just tap, 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 and then you're speeding it up. Because if you can't do it with your friends, and you're going to take some punches on the nose, it's part of the game. You're not going to be confident in doing it outside. How are you going to know it works if you haven't practiced it? It's a lot of people out there, again, on their background, they just do forms, and then what happens in reality? The form, and I was told, is just like the book. Everything's done perfect, so you have it, so it's not lost, and you take it. That's the way it's done. Now let's put it into some sort of 2-man drill or a free sparring exercise.
So, testing ground.
Yeah. So again, if you want to be good at defending or crushing jabs, get somebody to throw hundreds of jabs. I remember years ago when the UFC came out, and suddenly everybody said, what was working, what wasn't, and everybody started panicking. And I remember asking Sifu Paul, what do you do if you come up against somebody who's really good at grappling? How do you practice against a grappler? And he said, just grapple. Go and practice grappling every day. If you want to be good with a stick, get a stick and practice every day. And I always liked that about Sifu Paul, because there was no mysticism. It was just, go and practice.
Yeah.
There are no secrets. Just train.
Yeah.
Consistency.
So how was your early training in Mantis, Sean? What was it like going back and forth to see Sifu, and like
when I first started going over, I don't think there might have been I don't think there was mobile phones, but if there was no camera on them. So you had to remember everything. You could not video. So I would come home and practice what I had learned over and over and over and over, 7 days a week. Just practice, and then go back. And as I said, that's when you have lots of friends who are into their own arts, they will practice with you. I never really got into that mindset that one art was better than another. You get what you practice. It's like trying to say, boxing's the best art in the world because look at Muhammad Ali, or look at Sugar Ray Leonard, or Mike Tyson. But you're not Mike Tyson, So you can't say that your art is the best art in the world because look at, a grandmaster. That was that individual. And I remember I met Grandmaster at his birthday in, I think it was his 89th birthday. Was it? Maybe not that old. We done a demonstration. He was in London for the birthday, but he was doing demonstrations where people were punching him in the throat. He put his ear against a wall.
Yeah.
Quite a big guy up to push.
In Covent,
99.
Yeah, and he just wow.
Yeah,
that was foo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember, and then he wanted to spar, and he was, distance sparring with Sifu Paul. And I remember asking Paul, how can he be so powerful at his age? And Paul said to me, you have to understand, in the time that he lived, they were like gunfighters. Somebody, you could have a class in Hong Kong. Any day, somebody could walk in that door and beat you to a pulp. They wanted to take your students, and they might even challenge you with a weapon. So that's your livelihood. So if that was your reality, when you wake up in the morning until you go to bed at night, your main objective is to become the hardest man on the planet. So today martial arts are practiced different. They're sports or they're a hobby. A lot of the old guys, their life was depending on it.
And then their livelihoods.
Yeah.
So, that's a double incentive, really.
Yeah.
That was 99. You did, I remember that's the first time I saw you, I think, weren't introduced, but just on the videos of the 99 demo.
Yeah.
That was a great day.
Yeah, it was.
It was a great day.
Yeah.
And then later at the Jade Palace.
Yes.
Yeah, it was my Sifu's restaurant. Yeah.
We were all there. We were all there. Great. Yeah. 20 years ago now. My God.
I remember Ipshui put his head against the wall, and it was Fu, wasn't it? And Fu kind of leant against him and pushed his head against the wall, and he kind of stumbled. It was a false start to begin with, because he was like really leaning in his whole body weight, and then he kind of pushed his head. He went, looked at him, and then walked away, and he went. A big fat guy, and he still did him though. That's incredible. That was very impressive as well. That kind of that neck strength as well, because he was probably about 85 at least then.
Yeah. He wasn't. He can't have been. No way.
99.
99.
No, maybe younger.
He would have been like 100 now.
No, when he passed in 2004, didn't he?
Yeah, he passed 2004, right? So 10 years ago. So he would have been in his late 60s, 70s, early 70s, for sure.
I don't remember the birth, but that was the only time I met him.
Right.
Yeah, there was a lot of people would have went to Hong Kong. I suppose it would have been nice to see it, but I always had the belief I don't need to go anywhere, only London. Because Sifu Paul was all I needed once I seen him, what he was capable of, and why travel, that done me.
So I mean, I assume Sifu Paul knew your background anyway with regards to your training. So was the training that you did privately or even in the classes, was it any different? Was it geared towards you, or was it just like, we're going back years before I started training for anyway. So, or was it like, no, you start from the beginning and you're doing the exact same thing that I did? So, Sansao and Chaisao Dojong and Sambo Jin and
the fundamentals. That was it. And there was a lot more conditioning. I remember the body conditioning. Putting the arms out, Gaojoy, up and down, and your arms were swelled. You could hardly lift them and get them up. And he used to always say to me, if you can't take it, don't dish it out. It's more important to learn how to take it. Everybody can hit, that's easy. But you need to build the body and take it.
Yeah.
I remember it made me very...
Yeah, he said to me, Nish, you have to make pain your friend. I was like, wait, what? Oh, okay. That's what you mean. So, yeah. He's like, it's going to be, he goes, in this art, he goes, it has to be a friend of yours. You have to welcome him like he's an old friend and, give him...
Here we go again. No, bosh.
Cheers, have a gin and tonic and just train, So I was like, okay, make him a friend, all right.
Yeah.
That's especially important when you're doing shins.
Oh yeah. But when I remember, I used to stay in South Woodford with a friend of mine who was a builder from Belfast, and a couple of times I just about made it back over to Stratford's train station. I couldn't walk, legs just kicked off you, shins beat off you. Yeah. No, it was all. I think. And because of my work, I believe everybody should they should go through some sort of discomfort, especially at a young age, because you need that mental resilience. Life's not easy for anybody. It's not about, you're not always going to get hit in the gym. Some of the biggest hits in life come from outside. Life will hit you harder than anybody. So we need to have trained that resilience muscle. How can I deal with this hardship and get creative? How to create ways to change how you feel. A lot of young ones today don't have that. They don't know how to change how they feel.
Yeah, I think the perseverance of like keeping going and going through adversity in training has helped me outside of training massively. Because you just think, whatever it was, I've overcome more than this. You know, this is nothing. You know, and it's not just the physical pain, but it's that mental endurance to go beyond stuff. And you just, you know, in your personal life, you might be facing a problem, but you just think, I've just got to hold on and keep going through, just like as if I was getting like gauchoid, you know. And it does get you through. It can really help. Yeah.
Any stories that stick out for you from Sifu, or any particular lessons or something where you had a light bulb moment training? Please share.
I was actually talking about this last Tuesday. I was training with some friends in a local park. They practice silat, wrestling, Thai boxing and stuff. And we were talking about, I was showing them some techniques, and they felt a bit awkward. And I said, look, you know, I'm not going to move on until we'll do this for a couple of weeks, because sometimes we think we know something, but you don't really know it. And I was telling that me and Peter had visited Sifu. It must have been about maybe 12, 13 years ago. And he was teaching me the 18 machete hands from the Connolly Payatu. So this would be number 1. This would be number 2. You know, 3.
Yeah, I remember. Yep.
The Sifu asked me, have I shown you the machete hands? And I says, yes, I know them. He had showed me 6. I said, yes, I know them. And it had only been 4 weeks from he showed me. And he said, are you sure? And I says, yes, I know them. He says, okay, come out to the floor. So he says, I'll start with number 1. So he started throwing number 1 and just chasing me around the hall. Number 1, and he shouted number 2 then. So he started adding number 2. And then he shouted 3, and he hit me a big backhand. He knocked me right into the corner of the gym. And he just looked at me and he said, how many do you know? I says, none.
Let's start again.
He
was trying to be cheeky.
No, so Peter thought this was hilarious, of course. You know? But it's true. It's true. And you can, I suppose it's like the old quote from Bruce Lee: you'd rather fight a man who's practiced 10,000 kicks than a man who's practiced one kick 10,000 times.
Yeah. It's funny how, I don't know if it's ego or not really fully understand, but some people, they'll see or be taught something, a technique, and then just will swear blind they know it, they've mastered it. I remember talking to someone about Chai Sao, and after about 2 weeks, he said, yeah, like, I've mastered that bit now. Like, really? 2 weeks. So it's, you know, but people believe it until, you know, there's just so many layers. You have to really understand it. It has to be natural for you to know it, you know.
Yeah. I think if we're young and enthusiastic, we want to learn the whole system.
Yeah.
Because Sifu Paul used to say to me that I knew more forms than any of his any other student. I just constantly wanted all the forms. And then it got to a stage I could not remember the Chinese name. So I started giving them numbers.
Yeah,
that's right. Yes.
Yeah. Number 11.
And one time Sifu was teaching me a form. And he said to me, have I taught you this form? And I said, what number is it? And he said, what number is it?
This is quite funny because we do We do at the moment during this whole COVID-19 pandemic stuff. We've been doing early morning senior classes of Sifu Paul's Ripwad students. Sifu Sean joins in, so we are running through some advanced forms, and I said, "Oh, let's do this form." And then we were all starting, and Sean was looking. He was like, "Niche, what number is that?" And I was like, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "What number form is that?" And I was like, "Number 6." What's that? And I was like, "I don't know, man. What are you talking about?" So eventually we worked out. He was like, "Oh, that's number 11." And I was like, "Okay."
And it's you've probably been taught the forms in your own peculiar way, so that your numbering system is unique. Yeah.
So it's funny because I'd said forget more forms than I remember, and Sifu told me one day that there was, because I asked him, why is there so many forms, and he says, well, because there's so many different types of people. So Grandmaster would have looked at you, your size, your character, your temperament, and he would have knew, being Grandmaster, that this is the form for you. You practice this maybe with fighting form on these jongs. So then and Sifu told me that my form was Kata Sao, continuous clawing hands, because I was small and fast and nippy. And I had that endurance, so that's the form I practiced.
Did that make sense to you when he told you that, or did it come?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Cool.
I wish they had told me it earlier before I learned all those stuff.
Yeah, but there's always something useful in any of the forms. You know, you can always pick something out of it. You don't necessarily need to keep on repeating it, but some of them have got some practical stuff in. You know, obviously, as you know. Yeah, and then you did you kind of did the calorie as well from 2000. Was that just in continuation with Sifu Paul?
I seen it as an extension of the Chinese martial arts. Are very one-on-one, like boxing, like Thai boxing, but in reality, in the street, it's never one-on-one. And in today's society, there's always weapons being pulled out. And young ones are not afraid to use them. And I think I was telling Sifu about on the door, and a friend had been stabbed, and he asked me, did I want to see some calorie? And it's a weapon-based art from India, and it's all the drills are multiple attack drills. It's very rarely one-on-one. You don't sort of meet up for a duel. You don't challenge somebody to a fight. In the culture in India, it's gangs. The Philippines, probably the same. So everything's done in the 4 directions, and your peripheral vision, you're always aware of where everyone is. So it has its purpose. It developed through its culture. It's a battlefield art. And even with the takedowns, you don't go down with the person you take down. You try and get away, because if that person has a blade and you're wrestling with them in the street, or in my friend's case, he was wrestling outside a club, and another guy came over, and we thought he was trying to break it up, but he was actually down and he was stabbing my friend in the ribs. But he was very casual about it, as if he was tying his lace. There's no panic, there's no shouting, and then so that's where that came about, the calorie. And it's good system. It's very, very old. It has power yoga sets. It has a lot of a variety of bladed weapons, sticks, and a lot of spinning. So to me, the Mantis is good and close, strong, powerful. And during my classes, or if I meet friends, we will do the one-on-one drills, and then I'll just shout, move, or if I hit somebody in the back of the head, he's in the middle, and now he's surrounded by everybody else. So then we go into calorie mode, I call it.
Right, yeah.
At the end of the day,
direction.
2 arms, 2 legs. It could be an extension of a praying mantis form. That's why I've always been into application. Does it work? You know, can I make it work here? Some people, their martial arts system is about carrying on the lineage, knowing everything about it, being the carrier of the forms. That was never me. I was never in it for that purpose. We all do things for different reasons. My driver, my motivation was because I was on that journey of trying to build a shell around myself because of my background as a child and where I lived. Then, you know, you were on that journey to make yourself tougher, to get to know more, to stay ahead of the crowd, so to speak.
Yeah, Calorie is I mean, I think it's a fantastic martial art. I did a long time of training it with Sifu, and then went to India twice to train with Sifu's teachers. Again, you know, it really helped me inform Mantis. For me, Mantis is in my blood, so there are a lot of principles and training that I like, and I still do. So you know all the Calorie 2-man drills.
Yeah,
I do those. Like my training partners, I'm like, we do Chai Sao, we do Doi Dong, and I'm like, oh, let's do some strengthening exercise. That's what I call them.
Yeah.
And then we just run all of these 2-man drills, because it's still strengthening. It still requires hip and waist movement. It still requires that strengthening and tensioning, the opening. You know this one, Sean?
Yeah.
It's a fantastic exercise. It's going to make your ribs work. It will help your gao shui. So I still take all of these strengthening exercises and I apply them. And if it makes me stronger in some way, and you're right, with the multi-directional thing was one thing that I thought, oh, I really like this. And of course the knife things, again, extension, you know, some stuff. There were some things that I felt, hey, that's actually very similar to Mantis, or that's similar to this or similar to that. Like you said, 2 arms, 2 legs, you know, it's just a different way of moving slightly, you know.
Sifu told me a long time ago that the Jiao Gar Tonglong was practiced mainly by nomad tribes in the mountains. So these people would have traveled a lot. And they would have got into a lot of fights, met different masters, and I'm sure they learned and added techniques.
Yeah, it's self-evident.
You can see Xingyi in it. You can see some Bagua Zhang. I have seen different techniques from different systems.
Yeah.
So again,
I mean, you've got like the Phoenix Eye, the Galtra, the Phoenix Eye fist, and then Eagle Claw, the Yin Kam. So there's, you know, they don't always just apply a name. It's sometimes there's these they picked it up from somewhere else, from a challenge or from sharing something. The Duxeg one, they were supposed to be shared with the Liga, a swapping of forms. Pununga, the dog box. It's, you know, you see that in dog boxing. It's like both invented the same form. So there's obviously a sharing somewhere, isn't there?
Yeah, sure. And even when we looked in Chalgar, we have swimming dragons, and then we have the Hall of Light
Hall
Steps.
of Light Steps, definitely.
Definitely, there is some influences from other arts, you know. So Sean, I want to take a step back a bit. So Belfast, door work, man, what was that like? I mean,
I was a good talker.
So you yeah, nice.
I had a couple of rows, but it's funny, on the door you get to study and see another side of people, especially at Christmas, office workers who are maybe frustrated with their boss. And
they've had a few, yeah. They'll be too much buckfast.
Like demons when they get out. But no, in the 90s, if you'd done martial arts, you went and got a job on the door. And half the time we were so busy talking about martial arts, you could have walked in behind us with a sword, and we wouldn't have. You know, my friend Paul, he was just talking about that last 2 weeks ago. But no, they were good But and again, it gives you something to train for.
Mm.
Because you seen guys coming in, some very violent people out there, really just nasty. People who should not drink, who just get pleasure out of sticking a glass in somebody or throwing bottles just behind them.
Yeah, crazy.
I remember breaking up. We were doing the work at the local university, Queen's University, and there was a burger stand, and the guy accidentally went to the front of the queue instead of the back. He was drunk. Somebody head-butted him, and three people they just started jumping up and down on his head with 2 feet. So we sprinted down. They ran away, obviously, and the guy's head. Oh, I don't know what happened to him. Had to get an ambulance and stuff. But you need to remember that there's people like that to get that incentive to train, because you're practicing your martial arts. It's not a dance. You have to remember why you're doing it.
Yeah, there's some evil people out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Protection. You might not use it for yourself, but again, you can protect other people, and I think that's more. That's a bigger driver. There's only 3 types of human motivation. You know, you have pain, to move away from pain or the thought of it. You have pleasure. You're motivated towards things that you believe will make you feel good, and then you have significance. And significance is the highest form of motivation. If you believe you're helping other people, if you're making a significant difference in the world around you, this is why endurance athletes will keep going when they're nearly dead. This is why people climb Everest, swim the Channel. They will sign up to do it for the likes of the Children's Hospice. Because if they're only doing it for themselves, when things get tough, they can pack it in very easily. So I think even with our martial arts, we have to remember that you're not just training for yourself, you're training for your family, for your friends, and for people who's being bullied maybe out there that you come across.
Yeah, altruism, doing it for something other than just yourself, your own personal gains.
So has when you look at the way that you train, and I'll say Mantis specifically rather than just because of the group and stuff, do you have a different way of teaching Mantis or training Mantis, given your work with on the door, given your experience in boxing and competing, things like that? Do you have a different way of do you have a different approach to the way that you teach Mantis or even apply it?
Yeah, I start off teaching people the weapons that most people use, like a kick and a punch. So I'll teach them proper punching, biomechanics, and then the reactions that go with that. So once they have built the tools, then I teach them how to break it down, like third form. You learn to destroy the weapons, which the Mantis is famous for. Why should I just block your arm or leg when I can give you it back when it's broke? you can't use it again. I always like that theory. So I will, and even with the forms, I look at the psychology behind the forms. So when I'm teaching people, I will teach them the psychology behind why they're doing it. So first form is to develop the body, to close the holes, to close the weaknesses, the weak links within the system. So you're building the foundation to build the building upon. Second form, UQ, shake off the bridge. So don't let anybody disrupt your pattern. Don't let them cling on. If something's not good for you, shake it off, break it. Same as some people in life, same thing, avoid them, move on. Third form then is about destruction. Anything that comes in, crush it, break it, yeah, and give them it back. Fourth form, okay, you've built the body, you learn to shake off. PQ, learn to destroy. Some things are too big and too hard to destroy, so you have to pin Q. You have to look for the holes, you have to look for the weaknesses. Don't attack it, head on. It's too strong. And then you yin and yang, comme la sao. Use all your weapons, use hard, soft, use everything together. So you're starting to put it all together in the free flow. And then start to shorten everything down. Fat sao, Buddhist hand. So you're taking the techniques now and you're making them, you're starting to put in your Fa Jing and your Dip Guak Gong. So
Finding it.
that's the way I would sort of mind map it for people, and tell them why they're doing it. But everything is done in a flow drill as well. So it's like I would have drills. You might see me doing them with Peter sometimes. They look a bit like pack and punch, and we have a similar.
Yeah, I've seen the videos you've put on YouTube, and I really like.
It's a bit like a wrestler will pummel.
Yeah.
And all his techniques come from his pummeling. Boxers have preset sparring.
Yeah.
Drills. So I would have flow. These are flow drills, and then from the flow drill, you might grab, shake off, go back into your flow. Yeah. Destroy the arm, back into your flow. So putting it into flow and then stepping back, and then doing it in broken rhythm. So that's the way I build. So people can apply it and they don't get frustrated with just me teaching them forms all the time, and then they're worried, is this going to work?
Yeah, I really like that. Really
Yeah, I like the idea of the mental approach and the forms, understanding the kind of the meaning behind it, and you know, because you can apply it to life as well.
Yeah.
In those different stages of an issue, a problem, you know, from foundation to kind of the avoidance, if you like, of not letting something interfere you, or pushing it away or shaking it away. And sometimes you can't, and then you have to meet it a little bit more head on to deal with it, destroy it, like in the third form. And then if sometimes the problem is too big and you need to negotiate it and go around it, sidestep, take it from the rear, as it were.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Because
I see that. I see that definitely a structural approach in the forms. You build the foundation, then you build, and I even see the the yin and yang in the second form, because it's teaching you the different sides of the body. So you're doing it individually. You know, the dikwa, as it were. You know, the flow, and then the third is kind of, for me, like, it's defensive. It's also attacking, but it's kind of a more defensive in nature. Then the fourth form, more aggressive, more attacking, even though you're sidestepping, you're taking it now, building. So you build from the foundation up towards attacking.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the fifth form is like many techniques, different techniques, and, you know, getting a flow on.
do you do much in the way of pad work, Sean?
No, if I meet with my friend, no. I have a bag hanging up, and I remember I bought a dummy one time, a wooden dummy, and it was a really good one. It was made in Hong Kong, and the leg had been carved out of some sort of wood, because I ended up, a friend took it. He loved it. He says, you can't get these anymore. Had the knee and all on it, and I used to hang coats on it. Never. I'm a lazy trainer. I need somebody to be moving in front or chasing me. Or
just out of interest, because I would imagine with your boxing, you probably did a lot of pad work.
And I think that's why I got even I still train sometimes in the local boxing club, and I go in and do talks with the kids, teach them about discipline and how to take their boxing lessons and put it into their self-development, put it into school, and how to, you know, why people take drugs, that type of stuff. And if I'm given a hand in the boxing club, I would just take the kids off the bag and do a bit of play sparring. You know, pads, as out Bruce Lee said, boards don't hit back. Either there's a bag or you can't get a great workout on the pads. So Big Peter's a master on the Thai pads. He will have you totally exhausted, your heart coming out of your chest in about 2 minutes flat. So again, it depends on if you need to build your endurance, pads are brilliant. So it's really courses for horses, isn't it?
Yeah, no, just interested to know your training and your teaching method, given your experience. But I understand that your preference is the kind of 2-man moving reaction, throwing the hands out and using the techniques for that to kind of make it a little bit more live for you.
Well, I'd say one thing that I use with my Mantis training, I like anything that keeps the nervous system, working, is the floor to ceiling ball, the small ball, and there's a rubber band on
Oh
each.
yeah.
When you hit it,
Reflex.
it's constantly moving. So
Yeah.
because even if it doesn't matter who it is, if you walk past somebody and lift your hand, everybody has a nervous system. If we train too much on bags and dummies and pads, then you're building this belief that that's the way your opponent will react.
Very interesting. Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
use a bag for kicking, just for power, for knees and kicks.
Yeah, but I like that. The floor to ceiling balls, they move erratically. They move in. You can't judge how it's going to go. Yeah.
When the lockdown came, you couldn't get everywhere closed. So I went to the local supermarket and had bought a small play ball for my dog, and just thick rubber, and I got 2 bicycle tubes, and same thing. You can
Yeah.
quite creative.
Yeah.
Wow.
Tell us a little bit about your training in Sistema.
That came about, must be 6-7 years ago. I have a friend, Paul, who he has a gym where he does a lot of strength and conditioning, like old school strength, kettlebells, maces. And he's also a former amateur MMA fighter who coached MMA fighters. So he had sent me a message that there was a guy teaching in the MMA club, a Russian martial art, and it actually was a good time. I was sort of getting a bit stale with my own training. I wasn't getting to do a lot of it because my work, I travel a lot and it's very sporadic. And I was getting a bit bored with what I was, the same routines. So I went up and seen this guy. He's from Czech Republic, Martin Stroganoff, and there was about 15 guys around him, but they seemed to be falling very easily, and he didn't seem to be doing much. And I thought, they're playing along. So Paul called him over and said, "This is my friend Sean." I had told him about the martial arts I'd done, and Paul says to me, "Will you let Martin hit you?" And I says, "Yeah, go ahead, sure." He used to get it. So Martin says, "Are you sure?" And very soft spoken, very soft handshake. I says, "Yeah." So I got ready. Now he stood sideways, and his hand was, now he was about that far away, and he just hit me slow, and it felt as if it had been kicked in the nuts. It was really inside, and I just hit the deck.
Oh wow!
And I'd never been hit like that before. And he started patting my lung points and rubbing me and getting me to breathe. And I started laughing. And he says, "Why, are you okay?" And I says, "That was brilliant." Hit me again. So I was curious. He got that curiosity we have when we first learn martial arts. You're looking for something different.
Yeah.
And that's what attracted me. Once I got into the first year, there was no hitting, nothing. It was just about body mechanics, breathing, and dealing with fears, natural fears. Very relaxing, a lot of massage in it, and the class. At the end, there was only 2 of us still going. Everybody else started leaving. But it got me right. There's a lot of really, really basic. It's just the system. It's just the system. It's just made up of different principles and very basic drills that you can apply and fit into any art. Because even when I taught Peter some, he could see applications in his Bagua Zhang that he never seen before. I taught 2 simple exercises to a Wing Chun friend of mine, and he says his chi sao really lifted.
Wow.
It's it is a good system, but I just thought I can take this, and I already have what I need, so I can add these principles and make it, you know, put that edge on it, or make it that wee bit better. I've always looked at different arts, and I think because it's so many friends who done different arts.
Yeah.
And Martin was a good teacher. I also have a friend, Ryan McGreevy, who teaches for Vladimir. He teaches for him in Chicago, and he teaches differently. He's a bigger guy, hits really, really hard, but very gentle. And he's more into the breathing side of it,
Right.
the psychological side. So again, like the Mantis or any art, you will find, and I think Sifu Paul spoke about this niche in his interview, you will get some people in the Prem Mantis love the weapons. Some love sparring, some love forms, and that's what they practice more than the other aspects of the art.
It's like it's almost like the system's like a big pizza, and people have preference for different slices or whatever.
Yeah.
It's good to have an overview of the whole thing, but you know, then you need your base foundation before you're starting to try to apply other things to it.
Yeah.
But once you have that foundation and it's yours, then other things, like, you know, has been mentioned a few times, that other things can inform what you're doing. And they do, you know, you can actually see. In fact, they help you sometimes to discover what's already there.
Yeah.
In your system. You know, it's like, hang on a minute, yeah, and it's you know, it might be something from a form or whatever. And you think, well, that motion is already there, so now it's opened you up to that, to using that or applying that.
I like how you're saying, you know, I've taken the principle and I've applied. And I think that there are going to be a lot of arts out there that will have concepts and principles that may be different to what you're already training, and you can take that principle and apply it, and suddenly it may open a door for you in your own training, in your own system, that you might not have had. And that's everyone's journey, right? Because you know, again, sometimes people will show me stuff and maybe I've not been ready for it, maybe I've not been ready for that particular lesson, but then I practice, and then I'll see something, or someone will show me something, and I'm like, oh, that's what he was trying to show me. I wasn't ready for it then.
Yeah.
That's a new door into this system, or this technique, or this form. Yeah, so I really like that, because and the other thing is you'll see so many arts, and sometimes I'll look and I think, oh, that's a little bit questionable, I'm not sure about that. Then I guess until you train something and you can take something from it for you, or that can enhance, you don't know. So, and video can only tell you so much anyway, right? I'm sure some people would look at the stuff we do in Mantis and be like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Some people, some of the people on YouTube doing the Sistema, again, you know, they wouldn't be able to apply it, or they've maybe no background in martial arts. So, but the hitting's very deceiving when you look at it. But when you feel it, you're thinking, where's that power coming from? That is totally mind blowing.
How was that any different?
And that's why I wanted, you know.
Then was this a completely new power, or a completely different way of generating the heaviness or power? I mean, is it different?
Or was it the target area?
There's no, because I remember a lot of them was ex-military, and I went on a 3-day retreat with Martin's teacher and another friend, John, who's a military psychologist. And for 3 days, they just put us through different types of fear and pressure training.
Any spiders involved? Because I couldn't do it, man.
Spiders?
Don't make your fear public, mate.
That's all right. Who cares?
No. So, but I've always looked at, I only have one Sifu, my Sifu, Paul Whitrood. But say, I have friends who do different arts. I suppose it's like in Hong Kong, then all the old masters meet in the tea rooms and talk and show techniques and go, what about
yeah.
that? Same thing. And so I've looked at other things. What really appealed to me as well with the system is the health aspects of it. And even over the years, well, like most people, I started training with Sifu Paul for the fighting aspect, but then back home I had started getting into my therapies, and then I started learning the therapies through the Mantis. And over the years, my my passion grew more for the healing arts than the hurting. I got more satisfaction from it. There was more behind it. It's quite easy to hurt somebody. I remember when I was learning all the dim ma and the dim mute, I was more interested in the healing aspects.
Yeah.
And you had to learn that first, I was told, and then you had to learn how to reverse it. So you're learning massage, you learn, where spleen 6 is, the large intestine 10 and 11. So then you know if they're tender in people or their heart points, you'll know where to hit because you've experienced that. And Paul told me that's how you learned it traditionally. You learned the healing and then you had to reverse it. Yeah. But I never had any interest in learning the whole how to make people sick through the points or how to make somebody, because I know it can, down the line, it can make people go into comas or die. And I had no interest in that.
There's a really interesting thing with the system. I remember seeing something ages ago, a little video about breathing through the pain. They had a method and a training regime for applying pain and breathing through it to overcome it, and it looked really effective.
Yeah, I know that technique you're talking about, but to me, it's mostly fear training. And like for the first year, we would be in class, and you get hit in the solar plexus. The diaphragm would go into spasm. You can't breathe. Hit the floor. You recover. You brought up. Breathe. Calm the mind. Calm the mind. Calm the mind. Bang. Again. And this would be a whole class. And then eventually, when the teacher was walking past, you might get this reflex. Oh,
right.
They're looking to get rid of that. They want you to get to a point where you don't care. So there's no flinching, there's no reflex, and then they can begin to build you up again. If that makes sense.
That's very interesting.
Very relaxed under pressure. It's more psychological.
Yeah, I mean, right now, a whole class of getting punched in side places doesn't seem like fun.
Yeah, especially when they're coming down the line and
yeah,
you're next.
It's like
you don't
whole class of getting punched in side places.
You're not expecting it. You could be talking to somebody in the class or doing a drill and bang. So,
nice.
But it's if you tense, when they're hitting you, it's a different type of.
Very interesting movement. Very interesting movement. So it's I mean, again, I wasn't aware that you'd done that. So that was an interesting insight for me.
The other stuff is when I took a couple near 2 years private lessons, and it's all blade work. Razor sharp blade work again, just to move you to overcome the fear of blade. One of the drills is walking towards him, and he throws the blade, and it'll bounce off you if you're relaxed. But it's light. You get pricks and you bleed sometimes. But it's just to stop this fear. It's about moving through fear. One of the pushing drills, the pushing on the shoulder, and you just relax and move forward. Yeah. And I kept, coming back. So I trained in Ballymena in a UFC gym, Rodney Moores, and Rodney has been doing system himself for quite some time. So they have a very sharp staircase, a wooden staircase, and so Martin would stand me at the top of the staircase. So if I fell backwards, it was a hospital job, and then he would start pushing me. So I had to go forward, had to relax.
Yeah, you had to, otherwise you were going down some stairs.
down the stairs, But all, and I will take some of that, and I will put that into my work, because most people I work with, have some sort of fear or phobia in their life. So I look at everything as a crossover. How can I take my work into my martial arts, and how can I take my martial arts and put it into my
I think
work?
that's a good headway into what you do for a living.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people know that. Can you explain a little bit about what you do and how it because I know you do a lot of work with sports people and martial artists, and so I think it'll be very interesting.
It's based on the applied kinesiology principles, where we're all made up mentally, physically, and chemically. So those three aspects of the self, you have to have proper nutrition, plenty of water, hydrated. You have to have physical balance, your physical strength, good posture, mobility, flexibility, and you have to have the mental aspects of your health, your emotional health. So when I speak about emotions, you're just talking about vibrations through the autonomic nervous system. Certain emotions will help all the systems run together in the flow, and other emotions will suppress many systems in the body. They won't just suppress the systems, they will suppress the individual. So you can have an elite athlete or a great martial artist who just won't compete, or they won't go for opportunities in life. They will not live the life they're supposed to live and reach their full potential because of certain emotions that they are feeding themselves. So they might believe, because they feel fear all the time when they're asked to compete, that they're a coward or they might get hurt. Fear is a natural emotion. But if it's in the nervous system and you're moving forward, your brain is always building images. So if I have fear inside, it's going to build images of me being hurt. It's like somebody basic breaking bricks. If you have fear that you're going to get hurt, you're going to have images of your hand breaking. You're going to pull back slightly. You're not going to go through the brick, and hey, presto, you broke your hand.
Self-fulfilling prophecy, self-fulfilling belief.
Yeah. So I just teach, I work a lot with elite athletes who don't know why they're stuck, or maybe they've lost their mojo. And I work with people who have all the physical skills and potential, but they don't know how to switch it on emotionally. So I just teach people an ABC of how they work so they can work themselves better, whether it's through education, through sport, or just through life or for their health. And I've been told this by doctors of psychology, that I've took advanced psychology and I've simplified it for children, which is good when you're an adult, because if it's not simple, you don't have time to apply it or use it.
Mm.
How has your training influenced that type of work that you do?
Well, your training's achievements. If we're achieving things in life, then we feel confident, because even if you've achieved something small, once you've done it, so say you'd never fixed your car before and it broke down, and you got a manual and you fixed it, you get a sense of achievement, a sense of confidence. So whatever you have in your past, if you bring it back into the present moment in your thought patterns, it has to bring the emotion with it. So you're going to start to bring up the feeling of confidence. When you feel confident, you feel safe. When you feel that strength and that safety, and that's all anybody wants. That's why we do martial arts. That's why we want to be strong. That's why we want to be liked within certain groups, because there's safety in numbers. So you're satisfying that basic human need. So if you're faced with a challenge in life and you have a feeling that's telling you, I cannot deal with that, then I suggest you go back and look at your martial arts. Look at how you recovered from your broken bones, your beatings, going through your hardship, facing fears, you know, the thousands of hours, days, weeks, months, and years that you've trained. And all you're doing is manipulating the nervous system to get the feeling in that tells you, I can't deal with this. Because that's all you need. You just need to change the state. And I've used, like, I was on a journey, like most people, when I was younger, to stop the bullying, to make myself harder and harder. And then I had just returned from, it was 1998. At the end of 98, I was in Singapore. I went to take part in the fire walking festival.
Wow, yeah.
So I was the first Westerner from 1848 to ever do that in the Miriam Temple in Singapore. But it was, to me, it was another stage of making yourself harder. That's what I was always challenging myself. I wanted to see how much pain I could take,
Yeah.
how hard I could make myself. And then about a year and a half after it, everything going great. I was managing a fitness suite, where work was going well, and then my baby brother died. So everything to me seemed, you know, how can you fight that? How can you hit back at that? You know, hit you emotionally. So that was where my resilience came in, from the praying mantis, from the boxing, and also the therapies, the emotional intelligence. And then it was another death not long after that. And then, you know, over the years, even my wife had died 8 years ago beside me in bed and was in a coma for a while. And I was told she wasn't going to make it. And then there was a year recovery. So I had to use my resilience through my martial arts, but also my friends and also my Sifu, who was there every step of the way. Paul would phone me, especially after my brother, you'd met him. He would phone me every day, tell me stories from the Bhagavad Gita, and just making sure it was okay. So I think as well, as martial artists, we are part of a group of thousands of people around the globe who are walking in the same shoes, and they should be supporting each other.
Yeah, I think that's quite a good point. It touches on the whole community aspect of what myself and Nish have tried to do with this during what we face in a difficult time, and there's a lot of people feeling isolated and, you know, unsure. And we, you know, hats off to Nish. Nish's idea, Nish kind of pushed this forward, and you know, it's been really great, and it's culminated in tonight talking to you. You know, but it's great for people to see as well that we're talking to people who've got different experiences. We're all maybe, you know, a lot of people doing Mantis, but I've got a lot of different experiences in martial arts and in life. And that life journey is something, you know, we've all got our own story. Everyone's got a story, you know, but it's the sharing of that is kind of something that brings people together, I think, you know, in this community, a sense of community.
Yeah. And I love you said that, you know, using your training to change your mindset and change things in a positive sense. And you're right, because the training does that. And this is kind of why, you know, Alex and I are doing these talks and doing the day training, because there's one thing that we all have in common, and that is training. And when we train, we feel better. When we've accomplished, even if it's in hours, we've made that small change, that small enhancement to ourselves. Even if it's 1%, that 1% that you've done in that day is going to change your mindset, and you look forward to it. Oh, I'm training. And for that 1 hour or whatever it is, you're mentally switched on, you're mentally focused, and everything kind of just feels a little bit smaller, even if it's for that 1 hour. And that is mentally powerful, which is why we were like, we've got to do this for this. We've got to do this for the group, right? We've got to keep that positivity going. And I like what you were saying, that, you know, that resilience training, it isn't just in the school. It isn't just within that hour that you're training. Those lessons that you take from your training, from your classes, from your Sifu, from your senior classmates, they carry over into every part of your life. And
yeah, and they should. You know, that's why you don't want to spend. You know, for us, it's a lifetime thing. You know, and it's you don't. You know, the first 10 years maybe you want to learn how to fight, but you don't want to spend 30, 40 years of just learning how to punch someone in the eye. You know, or break their arm, or different ways of hurting them. There's got to be more than that, as you know. And
but it comes back to what Steve Sean was saying, right? He was saying you would learn the healing. You would probably learn healing first, right?
For the dim mak stuff, yeah.
Interesting.
So it's great because it leads on to a question here from Mark Roberts. He says, "Hi Sean, great chat. Like your YouTube videos. Interested in your views on becoming more interested in healing aspects. Do you think this happens to most or to lots of people who train arts like Southern Pro Mantis as they get older, more mature, and why people are motivated to train arts like as you know, Jalgar, Southern Pro Mantis for a lifetime?"
I think it depends on your own journey. I think everybody should know some sort of therapy, even for just treating family members
or themselves.
Yeah.
I actually got into the traditional Thai. So I had tore a rotator cuff during the Thai boxing, and one of the guys in the gym had been living in Thailand for 3 years, and he was going back and forth, and he said he taught Thai massage and would have called up and he would have a look at it. So I called up. He was teaching up at Queen's University, and I went in. He looked at the shoulder and he said to me, "Why don't you join in the class?" And it was like a duck to water. I just loved it. I thought this is great. And like anybody that sat long enough, I would practice on them, even if I didn't know them. The massage people, they were sitting on a train. But I remember walking on people's backs all the time. And my poor mum, she's a wee small woman, I remember walking on her back and she was squealing because she was too late, but I didn't know at the time. I was just learning.
Yeah.
I remember my dad opening the door to see what all the squealing was about. He said, "What are you doing to your mum?" And I went, it's okay, it's good for her. But no, at the end of the day, studying when you're treating the body and you know about the nervous system and where the arteries are and the points, at the end of the day, if you're going to be attacked, it's a body that's going to attack you. So the more you know about that body,
yeah.
And sometimes it's just a small phoenix and a spleen point, or not everybody. Some people just need a slap.
Yeah.
They don't need a pike in the teeth to knock their teeth. They just need a wee slap or a
wee slap. A wee slap.
You know, so no, that's, and I just enjoyed it. I was very curious. See, I left school with nothing really. Our school, as I said, it was tough. I just cared about boxing. It was only when I left school I had a conversation with a guy who he spoke a couple of languages, and he asked me, did I want to learn a language? And I laughed, and he said, "Why are you laughing?" And I said, "Because I'm stupid. I couldn't learn a language." And he went mad, and he actually caught me by the collar, and he started shouting at me, and he says, "Don't ever say that again in front of me." And he sat me down, and he broke down that belief.
Yeah.
He took the belief out, and he questioned it, and he analysed. And the next week I signed up to college, and the first diploma I done was anatomy and physiology, and I found it very easy. I thought, you just go over your own body every day, you know. So I was on this journey of curiosity and learning. Once I'd done the Thai, I went into I signed up, done the sports injury management, rehabilitation, found it easy, wanted to know more, found people were very weak at isolating muscles and the muscle actions, so I heard of applied kinesiology. So get into applied kinesiology, looking at electrical, emotional, nutritional, and structural imbalances.
Wow.
And then I was just looking at I was very interested in how most people especially before big events, they switched off emotionally. A lot of muscles were very weak. And then it was around that time my brother passed, and he was, well, we didn't know at the time, he was suffering depression.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So that got me interested more in the irrational mind, the mind that causes self-harm. So then I looked at the irrational mind therapies, which was trained in professional hypnotherapy, and then advanced medical hypnotherapy. And that was it. But it's all the same. To me, it's not, you know, people say, oh, you've done the massage, you've done, it's just about us. It's how we work. So you
Different
can't
aspects. They're just different aspects.
Yeah, you can't separate it. You know, you can train every day and have a positive mindset, but if you're eating rubbish, it's going to catch up on you. You know, or you're eating well and training well, but if you're not mentally right, you know, if you're depressed, then again, so you have to look after the Trinity.
Would you say that Trinity is it's the nutrition, emotion, and the physical?
Yeah.
Right.
You have to take one every day. Did I eat proper nutrition today, or did I take a good supplement? Did I take any form of physical exercise? Was it balanced? And have I done any meditation to reduce my stress, or am I keeping a journal on myself for self-development? So just tick. You know,
it's interesting. Hope that helps a lot of people thinking about this. Just that alone could be a trigger for self-examination.
Yeah.
You know?
So why do you think people are motivated to train arts like Southern Mantis for a lifetime? And it doesn't have to be Southern Mantis. It could be
because we associate power and safety, and it's what we call a neuro association. Like if I'm feeling, if there's days sometimes you don't feel really strong, or you might be worried about something, but if you do first form, suddenly your confidence comes back, because you have associated feelings associated with these physical movements. Somebody else, it might be Wing Chun, somebody might be Wing Yi, or Bago. So it becomes a part of who we are. It becomes a part of your life. And what I always loved about the forms is I worked a lot around America for 11 years, and Canada, always away on my own, always in hotels on my own. I was never bored because I always had my forms and my meditation. You know, where a lot of people would, you know, you put them in a hotel room on their own and they feel they're in solitary confinement. So, but
I push the bed and start training. Like, is there some space I can?
Hotel rooms.
Actually, any when I go away for work, my standard thing is, does it have a gym? Like, if it doesn't, then you need to find me a place.
Don't you? Like I remember
first time I stopped training. That's all. That's all.
When I went to New York, I would walk about on my own at night, and people would say, "Oh, I can go anywhere. I always feel safe. I'm not afraid of anybody or anything."
No, it's good to have a bit of common sense where you are, but also to not be held back by fear of doing anything. Otherwise, you just live in a bubble. You know, if you're constantly scared of in a new place of going out, it does pay to know a little bit about where you are, and you know, that's just like a common sense thing, because some places maybe, you know, you all stand out like a sore thumb, and it can be dangerous.
To be honest, street smarts apply.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that common sense approach, but to have the confidence to be able to go out and stuff is a good thing. From, you know, like from our training, I think you do feel that confidence, but you know, I think for me, again, the lifelong journey thing is more about how it makes me feel. That the Qigong, the internal stuff, I love the way it makes me feel. Now, you know, still want to train the hard stuff as well, but you know, it's never ending.
We've got a couple of questions, Sean. So you kind of briefly covered this, but it'd be great to answer it. Hi guys, this is from Robert. Hi guys, I have a question. Could you please explain Sambojin theory of the form? Qi and any benefits you have noticed. That might be interesting for you, Sean.
First form always changes. I've noticed over the years.
Yeah.
It's some days you'll get a wee change or an idea, and it's like eureka moment.
Yeah,
I always remember Sifu Paul. He was saying to me, I was staying in his house, and he was doing first form, or we were talking about it. And he says, I've been practicing first form for 30 years, nearly every day, and I still haven't got it right.
Mm-hmm.
I remember thinking, what's not to get right? It's only a couple of moves. But you don't. But now I know what he means.
Yeah.
For perfection.
Yeah.
And the foundation, obviously the first form in many systems is very basic. But it seems to be the core where the tree grows from.
Yeah.
So it's about feeding the root, isn't it?
Yeah.
Totally. And you're right. I think it can feel different every day, when you're doing it. And for perfection, that you can always pick something that wasn't right. And even if you, sometimes I feel like I've done, the first punch felt really good, and then the other punches just feel rubbish, or the fifth punch was okay. You know what I mean? It's just one of them you hit right, and then the others just didn't seem to kind of be that on point. But sometimes you get a good feeling, a good flow all the way through, and other times there's just just doesn't seem as if everything's connected.
It's crazy.
Like a golfer, Alex. You sound as if you're talking about golf.
Yeah, it could apply to that as well.
It's so funny. I was gonna call you, Alex. I think it was the day before yesterday, and we just finished training, and I was like, hold on a minute, have I been doing my the close from first form? Have I been doing it wrong for 30 years? And I was a little bit like, hold up, what have I been doing? And then I was looking at, I was going like this, and I was like, no, I think I'm okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
One of those things. It was just so weird.
Yeah. I mean, even things like in your mind, there's a certain way of you do a technique, yin cam or whatever, and then you look at it on the video and you're not doing it. You're doing something different. but in your mind, you had a different way of doing it. Like the other day, I was doing the yin cam because I was doing it hard. I went straight into a seize and closed my fist, but generally I'd kind of half close, like seize and then squeeze and then pull. It's just little minor differences, but it's funny when you see yourself and you think, oh well, I'm doing it different to how I imagined I was doing it.
Some days you've real good power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're going, where is it?
Yeah, it's
right. Sometimes you can't find it, and sometimes everything just feels out of sync or doesn't fit together, and it just
Have we put everyone off on Facebook? Just keep going. You're going to get it right. We're not that good.
We've got a question from Paul Jones. Did you find when you learned Systema, it made you understand your martial arts because of the body mechanics?
Yeah. Well, again, people probably teach Systema different, but Martin, my teacher, was very, very traditional. So one of his classes would maybe be 2 fingers, just keep moving your partner, just examining how the body moves, how you can take it off balance. One of the very basic drills, I was actually saying this to Peter, is you're just walking towards people and you just step as if you're walking down the main street, say in London, and somebody's walking, so you're just casually avoiding them. And this is something that's lost in a lot of arts. Somebody comes at us, we stand, we want to. But the main principle is to go half man, the move. If in doubt, step out. If it's a kick, if it's a punch. So they actually they'll walk towards you, and then you just move and casually, no thought. And then all of a sudden, when they're walking towards you, they'll throw a punch out, but you're not there. Something, and I thought that's everybody's forgot about that. Me and Peter were having a discussion on it because I had him doing it with me, and I think, but again, it's fundamental. principles.
Yeah.
I believe, I'm not sure now, I'm not 100%, but I believe one of the guys who produced the system was a military engineer, wasn't it?
Is it? Yeah, I know he was definitely military. It's like it was Russian military or something, wasn't it?
Spetsnaz,
Yeah.
but apparently a lot of it has Cossack influence,
Right.
with the whip and the Cossack sword and stuff. So
yeah, I mean, I've seen some of the stuff. It looks very well. Some of it looks very effective, even though some of it looks quite dodgy. But it's good to talk to you, knowing that you've experienced it and that it's kind of that there is real stuff out there. You know,
there is anybody's practice. As I say, the teacher I had was from the Czech Republic. His teacher is still in the military. I think he might be left now. Andre, he comes over once a year. He doesn't speak English. He's a former sambo champion as well. So
right?
He's rough and hard, but he can hit, but he can really grapple as well. He took a sambo seminar when he was over doing the Sistema for an MMA club, and you had a lot of top guys in it, black belt, BJJ, and a couple of UFC guys with UFC contracts, and they complained he was too rough.
Right.
For,
Yeah, probably not they want to learn, not get injured.
Yeah. So, but again, that's probably the way he was taught.
Yeah. He's doing it for real, not for. You know, I suppose they're doing it in a sporting kind of situation with UFC as well. But I suppose they're training on the way to build. They don't want to get injuries on the way there.
Yeah.
So, Sean, I have a question around the work that you do. I know that you travel all over the gaff to give seminars. You do work on the corporate side. You do work on an individual basis, and that I'm interested in the work that you do around transformation of an individual, and how you approach how anyone can kind of approach a way to change their beliefs, their habits, and their feelings in a more positive sense. I know with a lot of the stuff that's going on right now, people are feeling stressed, people are feeling isolated. What sort of advice or would you give for any person out there listening?
Stop watching the news. Bad news 24/7. No,
Yeah.
You have to understand that when you do any sort of, there's a lot of personal development programs where people believe they'll sell you a secret or they have the magic potion. You don't need anything outside yourself. We have all the resources that we need. We just don't always know where they are. So all I simply do is point them out. And it's like first form, you're learning to close the gaps, the holes, the weaknesses.
Yep.
And that's something you can't just do first form for a month and then that's you for life. With personal development, it's a daily practice. Okay, you just don't do it for 6 weeks, and then that's you. It's hallelujah, Do
you say part of that daily practice is saying ticking off those 3 things? Yeah.
Yeah, but the foundation of everybody thinks is confidence, and I would say 90% of people come to me because they want confidence. Confidence comes and goes. It's only a feeling. It's not there all the time. I can be confident at baking buns, yeah, but yet not confident at speaking in public.
Yeah.
It's just a feeling that tells you that you're capable. So when you know where it comes from, you can go in and get some of it. The thing that comes, the feeling that comes before confidence is self-esteem. It has to be there all the time.
Yeah.
That's your self-perception. Now, in society, especially growing up, we try to be like other people. We want to be like other people.
Fit in. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's a message I have for young ones, especially teenagers. My number one saying is, look up to nobody in life, respect them for what they have done and learn from them. Only look up to yourself.
Yeah.
We have to build a belief in ourselves. And how do we build a belief? How do we believe somebody's a great martial artist? How do we believe somebody's a great soccer player or musician? We analyze them, we study them, we research them, we familiarize ourselves with them, and then we install this feeling, this belief. You know, a lot of kids, you see, when they see a celebrity, there's a feeling of excitement and awe, they're in awe. But yet when they look in the mirror and see themselves, they feel low. My job is to switch that around. So when they look in the mirror, yeah, they feel in awe. And, you know, okay, celebrity, but sure, what do they do anyway? So if we install a belief by studying people, to install a belief in ourselves, we must study ourselves. Who are you? What have you achieved in your life? Now, I'm not talking about big things. What are the motor skills as a human being? What have you achieved as a martial artist? What have you achieved academically? What is your, what hardships have you had to overcome in your life? And you must know that if you don't have an awareness of who you are, I guarantee you 10 times out of 10, you're leaving that perception of yourself up to everybody else in society. And that's what we call an external self-esteem. So you only feel good when people tell you that you're good, or they behave in a way where you're good. Whereas then if they don't like you, then you're going to feel bad. When you build on your self-belief, your self-knowledge, it becomes a case of, if you like me, that's good. If you don't like me, you deal with it, because I like me. And I can't be anybody else. I can't be everything for everybody.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's an internal self-esteem. So you'll be comfortable sitting with the guys begging in the street, or you'll be comfortable sitting with the CEO of one of the biggest companies in the UK. You won't feel any different because you're comfortable with yourself.
Yeah.
That just takes practice. So every day you get up, I'm actually writing. I've written 4 books, and all of a sudden I'm never writing another book. But I was working with a group of teenagers who self-harm and tried to take their own lives and stuff. And I always get ideas. So this crowd was really, really bad. And I thought, right, I've only got 1 hour to change how they're feeling. They need to get a spark of light here. So I come up with a sequence, and every part of the process began with a letter. So I broke it down, and it was GREAT.
Great.
So on it, the Great Book. It's a small book, and it works with it doesn't matter who you are or what state you're in. When you carry out this process, it makes you feel powerful, and it will lift all the emotions. So it doesn't have to be rocket science. People complicate this too much. Some of the wealthiest personal development coaches in the world just regurgitating other people's books and making it complicated, making you buy. And if it doesn't work, it's not your fault. It's not their fault. It's your fault. You didn't do it right.
Get the next book. If that didn't work, there's another one that's in more detail. So is that you're writing that book now, or is it?
Yeah, in between all my other stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let us know. Well, let us know when it's
yeah.
It might be something people are interested. We'll put a link up.
It's small. It's a small pocket book, and it's just for everybody, so they can.
I'd love to.
Sounds great. I'd like to see it.
I'd love to read that.
Yeah.
I'd love to get a copy.
The first book I ever wrote was called The P's of Success, and again, everybody thinks that everybody else has a secret for success. You were taught that there's only one strategy for success that never ever fails. And your parents taught it to you when you were learning how to walk as a child.
Don't give up. Keep trying.
They all begin with the letter P. I have a poster. It might be on this. I'll send you it if you want to send it out to everybody.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's over the years, working especially with children, I asked them. I had two P's. One was practice and one was positive, I think. And then I would ask the children, can you give me another P of a success strategy? So they come up with all their P's. A lot of them would say pray, you know, pray if you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So the first P is preparation. Your parents will not approach you to teach you how to walk unless you're mentally prepared. So you're up standing at the furniture. You're not sitting on the floor. So you're ready mentally. The second P of success is people. We need teachers. We need good people around us in life to support us, and especially to pick us up when we fall. The third P is practice. You have to practice. There's no shortcuts. Practice, practice, practice. The fourth P is persistence, because you will fall. And as a child, we failed thousands of times, but we're persistent. When you're persistent in your practice with the right people and the right attitude, you will progress. And then it becomes a pleasure. You start to enjoy it. So there's 10 P's of success. I had them all jumbled up, and then I was in the hospital one time sitting for hours, waiting on the wife, and I was looking at them and think, you know, how do these go in order? And then I thought about, you know, when do we master skills as children? You know, you're learning to brush your teeth, feed yourself, tie your lace, sing songs, paint, all at once, but it's fun, and it's not, you know, if as adults, if you're asked to do more than 3 things at once, you get all stressed. What do you ask me to do that for?
Just mess them up. I don't get stressed, just mess them up.
Yeah. So
yeah, that's interesting. We could put a link up when your book's ready, and even on the other stuff that you've done. If there's any
Sean, you do quite a lot of stuff on meditation, right? I know that you teach meditation and you use it as a tool. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think it's very interesting.
Yeah. Well, again, meditation it's new to a lot of people. I've matched the two over with my work and with the Qigong. The Qigong is fantastic for bringing people into a meditative state, because a lot of people teaching meditation say, okay, let's sit down and focus on our breathing. And you might have just been out of work, caught in traffic, maybe somebody cut you up in the car, you're going like this, you've you know, there's nobody in, your dinner's not there. You'll be really stressed, and then you're expected to sit down and meditate. Whereas if I'm feeling like that, I start with my Qigong, get it all out until you're burnt out, and then go soft. So you're going from movement, and then, as you know yourself, when you're doing your soft Qigong, you'll eventually get to a stage where you're going into your post, where your body doesn't want to move. That's an indication you've moved into an alpha state. So you're in a meditative state.
Right.
You went from high beta waves, you know, very active, down into alpha in a very natural way. And then you're ready for your meditation. So, and again, even with the basic Qigong, I would put, because I'm aware you're in alpha state, the subconscious mind opens, the 88% mind. If I want to put lessons in, then I will visualize the lesson on the Qigong. So this is the first and the basic one. So what you're doing here is you're observing change. The body expands and the body contracts. The breath enters and the breath leaves. Okay? So what you're doing, you're observing change. So then what I do is I go back into my past and I observe the change, how my body has changed, my education, my friends. Everything in life is in constant change, the weather, the emotions. So then as we're going through this, I'm putting in this perception into my subconscious mind that, do you know what? I'm a master of change. And then I think about the future. We're all in great change at the minute, but it's not annoying me, because I've dealt with change my whole life, and so have you. Everybody has. So why is this frustrating and stressing people out? Those who adopt the change will survive in anything. So when you're doing this, and then again, that's where the meditation comes in. So it's like self-hypnosis. You're programming the emotional mind not to react. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Very insightful.
And are you talking about kind of almost like programming the chi as you're doing it? So actually you'll program it so that it stays in you. It's like a programmed thought that's in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know people that do a lot of that. I kind of try to do it when I'm. It sounds a bit wacky. People think, it's like you program in the chi, but it's a very powerful tool to use, and it is quite effective. I found.
I'm surprised how much breathing. Like my friend Ryan, who teaches Systema in Chicago, he does 20 minutes, 25 minutes of breathing before the class and 20, 25 after. And they breathe through all the limbs in the head, in and out, the chakras. There's so much. And it's really, really good. But they do it quicker than the Chinese methods of breathing. Theirs is very, very fast. And I found I could visualize it better when it was done fast.
Right.
Again, depends on what you like. Again, Wim Hof, everybody's into Wim Hof at the minute.
I think you're right. It does depend on what you like, and I like the yoga path to what you were saying in terms of balancing and activating those energy centers. That is my preference.
Right.
With that learning and intent in mind, I do daily yoga and the meditation and the breathing afterwards. But my focus is on how am I balancing those energy centers as I'm in each posture, and trying to understand each posture and how it relates to that particular energy point or emotion or whatever. So really interesting point that you just said there, especially with how Sistema does it. And with Qigong, like you said, the focus on the breathing and
totally.
Yeah, it's interesting what you're saying. Like, you're right. If I was coming from work and I'd just rushed on the train and I've been through rush hour, the last thing I want to do is sit down and be like, the
engine needs, it's been revved up, it needs to slow down before.
Because you've built up all of this thing, so to sit down and be like, breathe, I couldn't do it. I like to move.
I ran a retreat, a weekend retreat in the countryside in September, and one of the guys who was there, very, very heavy, very hyper, very tensed, and he just couldn't do the meditation, he couldn't do the Qigong. So I introduced him to Qigong, and he loved it, and he just eventually went into the soft Qigong, and that suited him. So it's like in hypnosis, you give the person, so if somebody comes to me and they're very tense, and I'm saying relax, and they can't relax, that's only going to frustrate that person.
Yeah.
If I have to relax somebody and he's very tense, I'll say, "Are you okay? You seem tense." "Yes, I am very tense." "Okay, I want you to tense some more, and I want you to tense some more, and I want you to tense some more."
Yeah.
200%. "Okay, with 50 minutes left, so you can hold that now, or you can relax."
I think that does work actually. When you, it's like you said, you do some gungs and stuff, and then get into the soft stuff, because you use up that nervous energy or that tension that you've got. If someone's feeling tense, tensing up more before you relax, you can actually feel the relaxation more. Tense up everything, all the body around your head, all your arms, and then you can let it go. Yeah. Then you can start to feel the relaxedness.
The body can only be tense for so long. This is actually an interesting question, and it's just come up, and I know we're just coming up to that point of where we've been for 2 hours. But funny question. You guys have all been practicing for a long time. Have you ever found yourself doing moves in your sleep?
Fighting in your sleep.
And I bet in your sleep, yeah. You've heard that, Sean?
I don't know. I've been sleeping, so I've never been told.
Or have you ever been at that point where you're kind of dropping off and you're relaxing, and maybe you're thinking about training, and suddenly you flinch? You never had that? I've had that. I have it.
I've had it a lot. You know, when you start practicing trying to do short techniques.
Yeah.
And so you do like practicing fuss over and over, and then I've woken up and I've tied my sheet into a knot. You know,
I've got some funny stories because it's a great question from Robert. When I was traveling every day back and forth between work, I had one journey where it was like an hour and a half, depending on how it was. And by 6 o'clock, I'd be on the train, and I'd just finished training with Sifu, and it would be knackered. I'd be getting back around sort of 10:30 p.m. And I'd be sort of at that point where I'm really low on energy and I'm just nodding off. I remember it was really busy on the train. I remember this one time, and I was like this, sleeping, like sort of nodding off in a state of kind of not sleeping, but sleeping. And I was thinking about stuff we learned. And so suddenly I'm on the train and I went like this. I was like this. All these people around me because the train was and they were like,
I've done that on an aeroplane.
Yeah.
And you know, you're packed close to someone, like, yeah, really embarrassing. But you know.
Sometimes you get that if I haven't trained in a couple of days, I get, you know, that is it restless legs they call it, but I would get it through my whole body. But I think it's the channels trying to clear themselves.
Yeah, and I asked them. I remember when I was training with Sifu Qigong, and man, I was training with him almost every day. Al, you were around in those times.
Yeah,
training every day, like early mornings, lunchtime sessions, and then late afternoon sessions. So I just finished like uni, and I was kind of trying to find work and other things. So I had time, so I was training with more time. And I actually said to him, I said, Sifu, you know what? I keep we've been training so hard. I keep like shocking as I'm sleeping, or like I'll be relaxing and suddenly my body will just vibrate or shake. And he's like, yeah, that's your gang coming out. And I was like, wait, what does that mean? He's like, yeah, your gang's coming out. I was like, wait, what does that even mean? Like, it doesn't tell me anything. Like,
I'd bounce off the bed as well sometimes. Yeah. To turn round and I'd take off and turn round. Weird.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
No, it's whatever. I just let it go in the body. If it's chicks, just let it go. Because at the end of the day, your body's performing about 5 million functions per second. And its main objective is to stay alive. So if it's doing something, it must have a reason for doing it.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're coming up to that 2-hour talk. It's gone so quickly. I didn't even realize the time. And honestly, I have so many more questions. But how can people find you, Sean? You've got a website? I mean, we can share stuff, but I'm sure you.
My main website is seanconnolly.info.
Okay, great. So we'll share that with the group. Any other questions from you, Alex?
No, it's been brilliant. Thank you very much, Sean. It's been really interesting and enjoyable. Yeah. It's been a laugh.
What we were talking about. We talked about that many things.
We covered so much stuff, and I mean, there's so much you can share. Any kind of parting advice for anyone on the group with regards to training, with regards to kind of that performance or mindset stuff? Anything, any parting things, something they can take away today and practice that you think would be beneficial?
Just what I was going to say, just keep enjoying it. If you're not enjoying it, you're comparing yourself to others, or you're being too hard on yourself. We all go through, it's like athletes, you have peaks and troughs, but just keep training, even if it's just, even if it's one form a day. Other days you have lots of energy, you want to do more, but it's a lifetime of, you have the rest of your life to master this, same as us. There's nobody gets it right all the time. Yeah. But the main thing is keep enjoying it, keep training with other people, and that's it really, and put it into your life. Look at your arts and how you can put it into other aspects of your life, whatever system that you practice.
Brilliant.
Fantastic.
Great. Well, everyone, thank you for your time. We'll post up Sifu Sean's details and then he can comment anything he wants to add with regards to resources or the books that he's written, or how you can learn more about him. From both our sides, that was a great talk. Thank you, John. I really enjoyed that, and hopefully we can get you down to do another session for the group again, because
that'd be great.
Okay.
All right, everyone.
Lovely, thank you.
And have a good evening.
Bye.
Hey, Sean. I've stopped now. We're not live anymore.
All right.